The battlefield was silent now. Smoke curled slowly from the broken ground, rising into the dim sky like black ghosts. The ruins of burned machines lay scattered across the valley, their metal still hot and twisted. The air smelled of ash, iron, and loss. A lone human soldier walked carefully through the wreckage. His boots crunched against broken stone and shattered glass. He carried no weapon in his hands, only a pack on his back and scars on his face. His name was not important here. What mattered was that he was alive when so many others had fallen. Every step he took felt heavy. His ears still rang from the explosions of the battle. The war between humans and aliens had raged for so long that he no longer remembered when it truly began. The only thing he knew was survival. One step forward, one more breath, never stopping. But this place was different. He felt eyes watching him. The shadows between the ruined walls seemed to move. Somewhere nearby, something, or someone, was waiting. The soldier stopped. His breath slowed. He raised his head and looked around. Nothing but silence. Still, his instincts told him he was not alone. Soldiers learn to trust silence more than noise because silence often hides danger. Then it came, the sound of footsteps. Soft, slow, deliberate. Not the clumsy march of soldiers, not the stumble of the wounded. These steps were steady, controlled, filled with purpose. The soldier's body tensed. His hand reached for the pistol on his belt, but he did not pull it out yet. He waited. His heart beat hard against his chest, and his throat felt dry. From the smoke, a figure appeared. It was tall, taller than any human he had ever seen, with shoulders broad and posture straight as a blade. The figure stepped into the light of a broken fire. The soldier's eyes widened. It was an alien warrior. Her skin glowed faintly, touched with pale blue light, as if the stars themselves had left a mark on her. Her long white hair was braided down her back, and her eyes shone like molten silver. Across her chest she wore armor made of dark metal and bronze, scratched from battles long past. In her hands, she carried a sword. Not a human sword, not a weapon of steel and iron. This blade was different, alien craftsmanship, curved and shining with strange symbols carved into its edge. Even in the dim light, the sword looked alive, glowing faintly with an energy the soldier did not understand. She stopped only a few steps away. The soldier tightened his jaw. He had fought her kind before. They were strong, merciless warriors who never bent and never bowed. If she wanted to kill him, he would be dead in seconds. Still, she did not raise the sword against him. Instead, she held it down, close to her chest, almost protectively. The silence grew heavy between them. Smoke drifted past. The soldier waited for her to speak or strike or move. But she only stood there, her silver eyes locked onto him. At last her lips parted. "This sword," she said, her voice low but clear, "belonged to my father." The human blinked. He did not understand. His mind rushed with questions. Why? Was she telling him this? Why not kill him? What was she waiting for? She stepped closer. The blade in her hands caught the faint glow of firelight, and for a moment it looked as though the sword itself carried a spirit within it. Her voice trembled, now as if she carried both pain and pride within the same breath. "My father was a great warrior. He fought with honor, he lived with strength. This blade was his life, his soul, his pride." Her eyes lowered to the sword. For a brief second, her face changed. The strong mask of a warrior cracked, and the soldier saw something unexpected. Tears. The alien warrior lifted her gaze again, her eyes sharp and shining. She took another step toward the human soldier, close enough now that he could see every scar on her armor, every detail in the strange carvings of the sword. "You are human," she said, almost whispering, but her voice cut through the silence like thunder. "And yet, it belongs to you now." The soldier froze. His hand hovered near his pistol, but he did not draw it. His chest tightened. His breath caught in his throat. What was happening? Why would an alien warrior, a daughter of his enemy, stand before him, speaking not of revenge but of giving? Why offer him a blade that clearly meant everything to her? The wind blew softly, carrying the ash of the battlefield around them. The smoke curled between them like restless spirits, but neither moved. The soldier's heart pounded harder. He did not know what this moment meant. He did not know if he should take a step forward or prepare for death. All he knew was this: something had changed, something he could not yet understand, but something that would alter the course of both their lives. And it began here with a single sword held by a warrior who should have been his enemy, but instead spoke with trembling words that carried honor, pain, and an emotion deeper than war. The human soldier stood frozen, his eyes locked on the alien warrior before him. She held the sword with both hands, the blade tilted slightly toward her chest, almost as if she feared letting it go. The silence between them was heavy, filled with unspoken questions. Her silver eyes softened, and for the first time, she lowered her head. It was not a gesture of weakness. It was something else. A quiet moment of grief. This sword, she whispered again, her voice trembling, was my father's heart. He carried it through every battle. With this blade, he defended our people. With this blade, he carved our honor into history. And now... She paused, her lips pressed tightly, her breath unsteady. The human could see it. Pain etched across her face, not the pain of wounds, but the pain of memory. She lifted her eyes slowly, and they glistened with unshed tears. My father is gone. He fell in the last war. He died, holding this very sword. Her words struck the soldier deeply. He expected rage. He expected her to blame him, to accuse him of being the enemy. Instead, her voice broke with sorrow. The warrior's hand brushed across the carvings on the blade, her fingers tracing symbols too old for the soldier to understand. She held the sword close, her armor clinking softly as she tightened her grip. I was only a child when he placed this weapon in my hands, she said, her voice carrying both strength and fragility. He told me, one day you will carry this blade when I no longer can. One day this sword will remind you of who I was, and of what you must become. The soldier swallowed hard. He wanted to speak, but no words came. His voice felt trapped in his chest, caught between suspicion and sympathy. The alien warrior's tone grew sharper now, but the pain within it still lingered. I swore to him that I would protect our people, that I would fight as he fought. But the wars, they never ended. And when he fell, when his body was laid to rest, I thought the sword would become my burden to bear. She stopped, her silver eyes locked onto the soldier's once more. But the truth is, I cannot carry it anymore. The soldier's heart tightened. There was something in her words, something that sounded like defeat, but not weakness. It was something far more human than he expected. The warrior took a deep breath, steadying herself. The wind carried the ash around them like restless whispers. My father believed in honor above all things. He believed that even in war, even in the darkest battles, there was always a chance to find light. And he told me once, that humans carry that light. The human's brows furrowed. Him? A human? Light? He thought of the long years of fighting, the endless killing between their species. And yet, here stood a daughter of his enemy, saying her father had believed in his kind. She took a step closer, her voice softer now. You may think I hate you. You may think I see only the enemy in your face, but you are wrong. My father once fought beside a human warrior, long ago before this war began. He trusted him. He called him brother. He said, humans fight not only with weapons but with spirit, with something greater than themselves. Her throat tightened as she forced the next words out. And when my father died, he told me, if ever I met a human who carried that spirit, I must give them this blade. The soldier's chest grew heavy. The meaning of her words pressed down on him. He looked at the sword again, glowing faintly in her hands. The alien warrior's eyes, brimmed with tears at last spilling down her pale blue cheeks. Her voice cracked. This sword belonged to my father, human. His blood is still within it. His honor lives in its edge. But it no longer belongs to me. It belongs to you. Her knees trembled as if the weight of her words had drained her strength. Yet she stood tall, refusing to let grief shatter her completely. She extended the blade forward, holding it between them. The soldier's breath caught. He had no words, no understanding of why this moment was happening. His instincts screamed at him to refuse, to question, to distrust. But his heart told him something else. For the first time in years, he saw an alien not as an enemy, but as a daughter mourning her father. The sword gleamed in the faint light. The warrior's hands shook as she held it out, not in challenge, but in surrender. Not in anger, but in hope. The battlefield around them was silent, as if the ghosts of the fallen waited for his answer. The soldier stared at her, at the sword, at the tears shining on her cheeks. His chest rose and fell as the weight of destiny pressed upon him. And though he had not yet moved, though his hands still hung at his sides, he knew in that moment that everything was about to change. The human soldier did not move. His eyes stayed fixed on the alien warrior and the blade she held out to him. The air between them felt heavy, almost alive, as if the sword itself carried the voices of the dead. His heart pounded hard. His mind raced with questions he could not silence. Why her? Why him? Why this sword? He had fought her kind before. He had seen them strike down humans without mercy. He had buried friends, comrades, brothers who had fallen to alien blades. For years his heart had been trained to see them only as enemies. And now here was one of them, an alien warrior, daughter of a fallen hero, offering him the weapon of her bloodline. It made no sense. The soldier's hand hovered near his belt again, fingers brushing the cold grip of his pistol. Instinct told him to be ready. Instinct told him this could be a trap. What if she was only playing with him? What if the moment he reached for the sword she would strike him down? He shifted his weight slightly, his boots crunching softly against broken stone. The sound echoed louder than he expected, and her eyes flicked to his movement. Silver eyes, bright and unyielding, yet full of something he could not understand. Trust. The soldier clenched his jaw. Trust was a dangerous word on the battlefield. He had learned long ago that trust could kill faster than any bullet. He wanted to push her words away, to believe that all of this was a trick. But the way her hands shook as she held the sword, the way her voice cracked when she spoke of her father, it was real, too real to ignore. He looked at the sword again. It glowed faintly in her grip, the carving shimmering like living light. Something inside him stirred, a pull he could not explain. It was as if the blade itself called to him. But still he hesitated. The soldier's chest rose and fell in heavy breaths. His memories fought against one another. Memories of battles, of loss, of human blood staining alien soil. He remembered his commander's voice, warning him never to trust their kind. He remembered watching comrades fall, crying out for help that never came. And yet, against all those memories, there was this moment. A single warrior kneeling before him with her father's blade, her tears cutting deeper than any wound. His doubt tore him apart. He imagined what his comrades would say if they saw him here. They would call him a fool for even listening to her. They would call him weak for not raising his weapon. They would call him a traitor for even considering her gift. But deep inside, another voice whispered, "What if this was not weakness? What if this was something greater?" The human soldier looked at her again. She had not moved, not taken a single step closer. Her arms trembled from holding the sword out for so long, yet she did not drop it. Her silver eyes never left his face, searching for an answer, searching for something within him. And in those eyes he saw no hatred, no hunger for blood, only grief, only hope. The soldier's throat tightened. His doubts clawed at him, demanding he walk away, demanding he reject her, but something stronger kept him rooted in place. The war had taught him that trust was dangerous, but maybe it had also taught him something else. that in the ruins of endless battles, sometimes the smallest act of faith could mean more than victory itself. The alien warrior's voice broke the silence once more. "Why do you hesitate, human?" she asked softly. "Do you think me a liar? Do you think my father's words were false?" Her question cut into him. He wanted to answer, but no words came. His mouth opened, then closed again. What could he say? That he was afraid? That he doubted her? That his heart could not decide between war and peace? He clenched his fists at his sides. "I don't understand," he finally whispered. His voice was hoarse, rough, as if the words themselves were dragged from deep within his chest. The alien warrior blinked slowly, her tears catching the faint glow of firelight. "You are not meant to understand yet. You are meant to carry, to learn, to honor." The soldier's doubt screamed louder. He was just a man, a survivor of too many battles, a soldier who had seen too much death. How could he carry the weight of another man's legacy? How could he honor the blade of an alien father he never knew? The sword gleamed again as if answering his doubts. Its light seemed to pulse gently, alive, waiting. The human's breath quickened. He felt the weight of choice pressing down on him. To take the sword would change everything. To refuse it would leave questions unanswered, perhaps forever. His fingers twitched. His doubts held him back, chains of fear and memory. But somewhere in his chest, beneath the scars of war, a spark flickered. Small, fragile, but alive. And that spark whispered a truth he could not deny. This moment was not about war, not about enemies, not about victory or defeat. This was about honor, about trust, about something greater than himself. Still, his doubts remained. Could he truly take the blade? Could he truly bear its weight? The battlefield was silent, waiting. The alien warrior's arms trembled. The sword glowed between them, a bridge of light across a gulf of fear. The sword hung in the air between them, offered by trembling hands that refused to lower it. The alien warrior's arms shook, but her gaze never broke. Her silver eyes stayed locked on the human, waiting for his choice. The soldier's breath was uneven. His doubt still burned inside him, but the weight of the moment pressed harder. He could feel something more than just the blade. It was as though the air itself held its breath, as though the battlefield and its fallen waited for what would happen next. The alien warrior took a deep breath. Her voice, though soft, carried strength. "Human," she said, "you hesitate, but know this sword is not just mine. It is not even just my father's. It is more than steel, more than honor. It is a promise." Her fingers traced the glowing carvings on the blade, each symbol shining faintly as if touched by her words. "My father fought with this weapon until his last breath. He told me that one day it must leave my hands, that one day it must pass to someone who carried the spirit he once saw in humanity. That day is now." The human soldier's chest tightened. The sword seemed to shimmer brighter, alive, almost listening. He felt the pull again, deep inside his chest, though he did not understand it. He shook his head slightly, his voice low. "Why me? I am no hero, I am no leader, I am just a survivor." Her eyes softened, though tears still glistened there. "That is exactly why," she said. "You survived when others fell. You endured when the galaxy tried to break you. My father said humans carry something that even war cannot destroy. Spirit, hope, will. These are not the gifts of kings, they are the gifts of survivors." Her words struck deep into him. For years, he had seen himself as nothing more than a soldier, another name in an endless war. Yet now she spoke of him as if he carried something greater, something worthy of her father's legacy. The human stared at the sword again. Its carvings pulsed gently, a slow rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. His hand twitched, drawn toward it, but still he held back. The warrior stepped closer, so close that the faint glow of the blade lit her face. Her tears ran silently down her pale blue skin, falling onto the metal of her armor. Yet her voice carried no weakness. This sword belonged to my father, human. Now it belongs to you. She extended her arms fully, offering the blade completely. No hesitation. No trap. Only truth. The soldier's throat was dry. His heart pounded so loud he thought she could hear it. His hand, heavy with doubt, slowly lifted. He reached toward the sword, every inch feeling like a mile. And then, his fingers brushed the hilt. A spark ran through him. Warm, powerful, not painful but overwhelming. His breath caught as the carvings on the blade flared brighter, glowing with a light that filled the air between them. The alien warrior closed her eyes, whispering softly in her own tongue. The human could not understand the words, but he felt them. They were not curses, not threats. They were blessings. Farewell words to her father, perhaps. The soldier's hand wrapped fully around the hilt. The moment he did, the sword felt heavy, impossibly heavy, as though the weight of generations had fallen into his grip. But as he steadied his hold, the weight shifted, still great, but balanced, as if it recognized him. The alien warrior let go. For the first time since he had seen her, her hands were empty. She looked at them, trembling slightly, then looked back to the human. Her face was unreadable. Grief, relief, pride, all at once. The soldier lifted the blade slowly, holding it before his eyes. The glow dimmed slightly, settling into a steady light. His reflection shone faintly in the metal, and for the first time in his life he felt chosen. But the doubt still whispered inside him. What if he was not worthy? What if he failed this trust? The alien warrior seemed to read his thoughts. She stepped forward, her voice steady though her eyes were wet. Do not fear the weight, human. It is not yours to carry alone. My father carried it. I carried it. Now you will carry it. And when your time ends, you too will pass it on. That is the way of honor. And the soldier stood at the edge of choice, his heart torn between doubt and destiny. The soldier lowered the sword slightly, staring at her. And if I cannot? He asked quietly. Her answer was simple, but powerful. Then you will learn. And in learning, you will honor him. The words sank into him, filling the cracks left by doubt. He still did not fully understand, but he no longer felt alone. The battlefield was silent still, but the silence was different now. It was no longer heavy with death. It was heavy with possibility. The human soldier held the alien warrior's father's blade in his hands, and though his mind still questioned, his heart knew. This moment was no accident. Something greater had begun. The sword felt strange in the human's hands, heavy yet balanced, cold yet alive. Its carved symbols glowed faintly, pulsing like the slow beat of a heart. He held it tightly, afraid to let go, unsure whether he had accepted a gift or taken on a curse. The alien warrior watched him closely. Her silver eyes softened as if she could see the storm inside him. For the first time since they met, her hands were empty, yet her posture remained strong. She looked almost relieved, as if a burden she had carried for years had finally been lifted. You hold more than steel now, human, she said softly. You hold the spirit of my father and the bond he believed in. The human's throat tightened. He glanced down at the blade, its glow reflecting faintly in his weary eyes. He had carried rifles, knives, grenades, tools of war made for destruction. But this was different. This weapon was not just a weapon. It was history. It was memory. It was trust. He shook his head slowly. I don't understand. Why give this to me? Why not keep it yourself? Her gaze flickered, and for a brief moment he saw the pain still hiding behind her strength. Because this sword is not mine to carry anymore. My father's honor demands that it be given to one who will carry it forward. I have fought, yes. I have bled. But the blade calls for something beyond my reach. And now, it calls for you. The human shifted uneasily, doubt gnawing at his chest. He wanted to argue, to deny the weight she placed upon him. But as he looked at the blade again, he felt the truth in her words. The sword did not feel stolen, it did not feel misplaced, it felt waiting. The alien warrior stepped closer, her armor clinking softly. She stood tall before him, though her eyes still glistened with tears. "My father once told me," she said, her voice low, "that honor is not carried in blood alone. Honor is carried in choices, in the strength to do what others will not. That is why I give you this sword. Not because of what you have done, but because of what you may yet choose to do." Her words struck deep. For years, the soldier had fought because he had to, not because he believed in some higher purpose. He fought to survive, to protect his brothers in arms, to live another day, but never before had anyone spoken to him as if he could carry something greater. The sword's glow brightened faintly, as if it too listened. The soldier's grip tightened. He raised his head, meeting her gaze. "And if I fail?" he asked. His voice was steady, though inside he still wrestled with fear. She tilted her head slightly, her expression soft but firm. "Then you rise again. That is honor. Not perfection, not victory, but the will to stand even after you fall. That is what my father saw in humans. That is what he saw in you, though you may not yet see it yourself." The human swallowed hard. Her words felt heavy, yet strangely freeing. He had always believed honor belonged to the great leaders, the heroes sung in songs. But now this alien warrior, his enemy until this very moment, was telling him honor lived even in ordinary men who chose to rise. For the first time in a long while, the soldier felt something stir in his chest. Not pride, not arrogance, but a small spark of purpose. He lowered the sword slightly, its edge catching the glow of the broken fires around them. "Then I will try," he said quietly. "For your father, for his honor." The alien warrior closed her eyes briefly, then bowed, her head. When she looked at him again, her silver eyes no longer carried only sorrow. They carried respect. "You are no longer just human to me," she said firmly. "You are the bearer of my father's blade. From this moment, you carry his legacy. You carry my trust. And though our peoples may still be divided, know this, I will stand beside you, if the day comes when you must prove yourself." The soldier blinked, surprised. Her words were not simply ritual. They were a vow, an oath of honor between them. The bond formed not in blood, not in battle, but in trust. A human and an alien, once enemies, now tied together by the weight of a single sword. The battlefield around them seemed quieter, as though even the echoes of war respected this moment. The smoke drifted softer. The ruined machines stood like silent witnesses. The soldier took a long breath, then raised the blade higher, holding it across his chest. The glow pulsed gently, steady, alive. He felt its weight settle into him, not crushing but grounding. For the first time since the war began, he did not feel alone. The alien warrior placed a hand over her chest, bowing slightly. "With honor, human, carry it well." The soldier nodded, the sword firm in his grasp. He did not know what trials awaited, or how this bond would shape the battles to come, but he knew this. The sword was no longer just hers. It was his, theirs, and in that bond of honor, something greater had begun. The human soldier stood with the sword in his hands, its faint glow reflecting in his weary eyes. The battlefield was silent, but inside his chest a storm raged louder than any cannon fire. The blade felt alive. It was not like the weapons he had carried before, cold, simple tools of war. This sword carried something deeper, something he could not explain. Every time he moved it, he felt its weight shift, as if it tested him, measured him, waited for him to decide. The alien warrior still stood before him, her hands now empty. She watched him carefully, her silver eyes steady but soft. She had given him more than steel. She had given him her trust, and that trust frightened him more than any enemy. He took a slow breath, lowering the blade to his side. His heart pounded, hard, and his thoughts twisted. Why me? Why not her? Why not someone stronger, Wiser, braver, his voice broke the silence, quiet but sharp. What if I cannot carry this? What if I am not the man your father believed I could be? The alien warrior stepped closer, her voice calm, yet firm. Then you will learn. That is the way of honor. No warrior is born worthy of their blade. Worthiness is earned with each choice. Her words struck him, but his doubts clawed back quickly. He looked at the sword again, its carvings glowing faintly in the dim air. What if I fail? What if I dishonor her father by holding it? The soldier's memories came rushing, faces of comrades who had fallen, screams of battles he survived by chance, the endless weight of war pressing on his shoulders. He had never been a leader, never been chosen for greatness. He was just another man who managed to live when so many others had not. The doubt burned him. His grip tightened on the hilt until his knuckles whitened. He wanted to throw the sword down, to reject it, to say he was not the one. But something deeper inside stopped him. He remembered the warrior's tears, the way her voice trembled when she spoke of her father. He remembered how she held the blade not as a weapon but as a memory, as a promise. And he realized, to reject the sword was not to reject her. It was to reject the bond she had offered. The alien warrior stepped closer, still, her silver eyes never leaving his. Human, she said softly, the choice is yours. No one forces this upon you. If you do not wish to carry my father's blade, then leave it. Walk away. But if you take it, you must take it not as a weapon, but as a vow. Her words echoed through him. A vow, not a weapon. He looked at the sword again, its glow steady, patient, waiting. Slowly, his heart steadied with it. He realized the choice was not about strength. It was not about power. It was about whether he was willing to try. He lifted the sword again, holding it before his chest. The light shimmered faintly, and in that glow he felt something stir, a spark of purpose, fragile but real. I will carry it, he said, his voice low but firm. Not because I believe I am worthy, but because I believe I must try. For your father, for his honor, for the trust you have given me. The alien warrior bowed her head slightly, her silver hair catching the dim light. A tear slid down her cheek, but her lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Then you have chosen well, human. The soldier felt the sword grow lighter in his grip, as if it accepted his choice. Its glow steadied, no longer pulsing with uncertainty. It belonged to him now, or perhaps he belonged to it. Still, his heart was uneasy. He knew this was not the end. Taking the sword was only the beginning. To carry it meant to face battles beyond his understanding, to live not only for himself but for the honor of another. The alien warrior seemed to sense his thoughts. The path will not be easy, she said, but the sword has chosen you, as much as I have. Remember, human, honor is not the absence of fear. It is the strength to act despite it. The soldier nodded slowly, her words carving themselves deep into him. He looked at the battlefield around them, the ruins, the ash, the silence of the fallen. For years he had seen only death here, but now, holding the sword, he saw something else. Possibility. He tightened his grip and raised the blade once more. The glow reflected in his eyes, and for the first time in a long while he felt not only like a survivor, but like someone with purpose. The alien warrior placed a hand over her chest, bowing, again. With honor, human. Carry it well. The soldier bowed his head slightly in return. With honor, he echoed, the words tasting strange on his tongue, yet powerful. The bond between them was sealed. The choice had been made. And though the war was far from over, though darkness still loomed over both their peoples, something had changed. A single sword, a single choice had tied their fates together. The human's heart still carried doubt, but now alongside it lived something stronger. Hope. The human soldier stood with the alien warrior's father's blade in his hands. The battlefield around them lay silent, smoke drifting across ruins, broken machines scattered like bones of giants. For years, this place had been nothing but death and loss. Yet now, in the stillness, something new had been born. A bond. The sword pulsed faintly in his grip, warm against his skin. It no longer felt like a stranger's weapon. It felt alive, steady, as if it had accepted him. The soldier could almost hear it whisper, an echo of battles past, a memory of a father's voice, a call toward the future. The alien warrior stood across from him, silver eyes watching closely. Her posture was strong, but her face carried both sorrow and peace. Her father's blade was no longer hers, yet she did not seem weaker for it. If anything, she stood taller, as though sharing it had set her free. "You carry more than a sword now," she said softly. "You carry a legacy. You carry a vow." The soldier nodded, gripping the hilt tightly. He still felt the weight of doubt pressing on his chest, but now it lived beside something stronger. Purpose. For so long he had been nothing more than a survivor, a man lost in endless battles. But now, for the first time, he felt chosen, not by glory, not by command, but by trust. He lowered his gaze to the blade. Its carvings shimmered faintly in the smoke, glowing like stars in the dark. He thought of her father, someone he had never known, yet whose shadow now stretched over him. He thought of the warrior before him, her eyes filled with faith where his had carried only doubt. And he thought of humanity, his own people, who would never believe such a moment could exist between enemies. Would they call him a fool? A traitor? Would they even understand? The warrior seemed to sense his thoughts. She stepped forward, her voice steady. "The galaxy will not see what we see. Not yet. But one day they will. One day they will know why my father trusted your kind. And one day they will know why I gave you this sword." Her words carried more than promise. They carried prophecy. The soldier raised his head. The air around them was quiet, but it no longer felt heavy. Instead, it felt like the silence before a new beginning. His voice was low but firm. "Then I will carry it. For him. For you. For what's to come." The warrior bowed her head slightly, her silver hair falling across her armor. A faint smile touched her lips. "Then we are bound, human. Not as enemies, not as strangers, but as keepers of the same fire." The soldier straightened, the sword gleaming faintly in his grasp. For years he had fought with weapons built to destroy. Now he held one built to remind him of honor, of sacrifice, of the bond between species who should have been enemies, but chose something greater. The future stretched before him, uncertain and dangerous. Wars would continue. Blood would still be spilled. But the moment had changed him. He would not fight only to survive. He would fight to carry a legacy. The alien warrior stepped back, her eyes never leaving him. "Carry it with pride, human," she whispered. "And when the day comes that you stand at the edge of death, remember this moment. Remember that you were not alone." The soldier felt her words sink deep into his chest. For the first time, he believed them. He was not alone, not anymore. He lifted the sword high, its glow brighter now, shining against the dark battlefield. The light stretched across the ruins, touching broken steel and fallen stone, as if declaring that even here in the ashes hope could rise. The alien warrior placed her hand over her chest, bowing once more. He mirrored the gesture, sword still raised. For a moment, human and alien stood not as enemies, but as something greater. Two lives tied by honor, carrying a fire that neither war nor death could silence. The silence lingered, but it was no longer empty. It was the silence of change, the silence of beginnings. The human soldier lowered the sword, holding it firm at his side. His doubts still whispered, but they were quieter now. In their place lived determination, raw and steady. Turned his eyes to the horizon. The war was not over. His path would be hard, perhaps impossible, but he no longer walked it alone. The bond between them, between species, between past and future, would guide him. "This is only the beginning," he murmured, more to himself than to her. The alien warrior nodded, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "Yes," she replied. "The beginning of what my father dreamed of, and the beginning of what you will become." The soldier tightened his grip on the sword, its glow steady against the ash. For the first time in years he felt not like a survivor, but like a man, with destiny. And as he stepped forward into the ruins, the blade shining faintly in his hand, the future began.